What if the biggest reason you're still losing money in the market has nothing to do with your strategy, your indicators, or even the market itself? Most traders spend years searching for the perfect setup, believing that one more course, one more chart pattern, or one more secret indicator will finally make them profitable. But what if that belief is the very thing keeping you stuck? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Two traders can use the exact same strategy, enter the exact same trade, and still end up with completely different results. The difference isn't on the chart, it's inside the mind, and that's where almost everyone stops looking. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why consistent profitability begins long before you place a trade, why your emotions quietly make decisions before your logic ever gets a chance, and how a simple shift in the way you think can completely change the way you trade. But be careful. Some of the ideas you're about to hear may challenge everything you've believed about success in the market. As this journey unfolds, each chapter will reveal another hidden layer of the psychology that separates disciplined traders from those trapped in an endless cycle of hope, fear, and frustration. And while every lesson builds on the last, the final chapter contains the most powerful insight of all, one that has the potential to change not only how you trade, but how you make decisions in every area of your life. Don't skip ahead, because missing a single piece could leave the entire picture incomplete. If something in this video changes the way you think, let me know in the comments, because your perspective could help someone else who's fighting the same invisible battle. And if you're serious about becoming a more disciplined, profitable trader, subscribe and stay with us until the very end, because by the time this journey is over, you may realize that the market was never your biggest opponent. The person staring back at you in the mirror was. Chapter 1. Why most traders never become consistently profitable. Think about the last trade that stayed in your mind long after it was over. Maybe it was the one that made you feel unstoppable. Or maybe it was the one that made you question whether you were ever meant to succeed in trading. Now ask yourself one simple question. Did the market create those emotions, or did it simply reveal what was already happening inside your mind? Most people believe the market is their greatest enemy. They blame volatility, unexpected news, manipulative institutions, or bad luck. But here's something that few traders ever stop to consider. The market has no opinion about you. It doesn't know your name. It doesn't care about your hopes, your fears, or your financial goals. It simply moves. The real battle begins the moment you assign meaning to those movements. Imagine two traders watching the exact same chart. One sees opportunity, the other sees danger. One enters with confidence, follows the plan, and accepts whatever happens next. The other hesitates, changes the entry at the last second, exits too early, and spends the rest of the day wondering what went wrong. The chart never changed, only the mind did. This is where the invisible gap between average traders and consistently profitable traders begins. The average trader believes success comes from predicting the future. They constantly search for certainty. They want every trade to win. They want every signal to be perfect. They believe confidence comes from knowing what will happen next. But certainty is an illusion. Every moment in the market contains uncertainty, no matter how strong a setup may look. The sooner you accept this reality, the sooner you stop fighting the market and start working with it instead. Here's something interesting. Fear doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it disguises itself as overanalysis. Sometimes it becomes endless chart watching. Sometimes it convinces you to wait for one more confirmation until the opportunity is gone. Other times, it pushes you to jump into a trade too early because you're afraid of missing out. Different behaviors, the same psychological route. Now picture a pilot preparing for takeoff. Before every flight, there is a checklist. The pilot doesn't skip steps because the weather looks good. They don't ignore procedures because they feel lucky. They trust the process more than their emotions. Professional traders think the same way. They understand that discipline is not about controlling the market. It's about controlling themselves. That idea changes everything. Because once you stop trying to force perfect outcomes, you become free to focus on perfect execution. Execution is where consistency is built. Not prediction, not excitement, not hope. Every profitable habit begins with a simple decision. Follow the plan regardless of how you feel in the moment. The market rewards consistency far more often than it rewards emotional brilliance. But here's what most people never realize. Your emotions aren't the real problem. They are only symptoms of something much deeper, your beliefs about winning, losing, risk, and personal identity. Until those beliefs change, your behavior will always return to the same familiar patterns, no matter how many new strategies you learn. And that raises an even bigger question. If your biggest obstacle isn't the market, then where did these hidden beliefs come from? And how have they been silently controlling every trade you've ever taken? That's exactly where we're going next. Chapter 2. Train your mind to think in probabilities, not predictions. Imagine flipping a coin that lands on heads 6 times in a row. Most people immediately believe the next flip has to be tails. It feels logical, it feels certain. But the coin doesn't remember the last 6 flips. Every toss is a new event with the same probability as the one before it. The market works in a surprisingly similar way. Yet most traders bring memories, emotions, and expectations from previous trades into every new decision. A winning streak makes them feel invincible. A losing streak convinces them they've suddenly forgotten how to trade. In both cases, they're no longer responding to the current opportunity. They're reacting to the past. This is one of the most expensive psychological traps in trading. Your last trade has nothing to do with your next one. Read that again. A previous win doesn't guarantee another win. A previous loss doesn't guarantee another loss. Every setup is simply another opportunity with a probability of success, not a promise. But the human brain hates uncertainty. From childhood, we're taught that there's a right answer and a wrong answer. Good grades are rewarded. Mistakes are punished. We grow up believing success means always being correct. Then we enter the market carrying that same belief, expecting every trade to prove that we're right. That's where the struggle begins, because the market doesn't reward being right. It rewards making good decisions consistently, even when individual outcomes don't go your way. Think about a professional poker player. They don't expect every hand to win. In fact, they fold far more hands than they play. But when the odds are in their favor, they act without hesitation, and when the odds aren't there, they walk away without emotion. They're not attached to a single hand. They're committed to the long game. The best traders develop that exact mindset. Instead of asking, "Will this trade win?" they ask a different question. "Does this trade fit my plan?" That small change transforms everything, because now your confidence isn't built on predicting the future. It's built on trusting your process. Picture an archer aiming at a target. The archer can control their stance, their breathing, their focus, and the release of the arrow. But the wind? The weather? The tiny variables that appear after the arrow leaves the bow. Those are beyond their control. Trading is no different. You control your preparation. You control your risk. You control your execution. The outcome belongs to the market. Once you truly accept that, something remarkable happens. The pressure begins to disappear. You stop chasing every move. You stop forcing trades out of boredom. You stop feeling personally attacked when a position doesn't work. Instead, you become calm, patient, objective. And those qualities are far more valuable than any indicator you'll ever place on a chart. But here's the surprising part. Thinking in probabilities isn't just about trading. It's about changing your identity. You're no longer someone desperately trying to be right. You're someone who consistently follows a proven process, knowing that success is measured over hundreds of decisions, not just one. That identity shift is powerful, because once your mind stops demanding certainty, your emotions lose much of their control. But there's still one invisible force capable of destroying even the best trading plan. It's faster than logic, stronger than knowledge, and impossible to outrun unless you learn to recognize it first. And that's exactly what we'll uncover in the next chapter. Chapter 3. Master emotional discipline before you master the market. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. There's a strong, secure bridge in front of you, built to carry your weight safely to the other side. You know it's been tested. You know it's reliable. But fear whispers something different. It tells you the bridge might collapse, your heart races, your breathing changes. Suddenly, what you know is no longer as powerful as what you feel. This is exactly what happens to traders every single day. They build a solid trading plan while they're calm. They define their entries, exits, and risk. Everything makes perfect sense. But the moment real money is on the line, emotion takes control. Fear says, close the trade before it turns against you. Greed says, hold a little longer. You can make even more. Hope says, don't accept the loss. It'll come back. Ego says, you can't be wrong again. None of these voices sound dangerous. In fact, they often sound reasonable. That's what makes them so powerful. The market doesn't need to defeat you. Your emotions can do that all by themselves. Now picture a professional athlete preparing for a championship game. The crowd is loud. The pressure is enormous. Every movement matters. Yet the athlete isn't trying to eliminate emotion. Instead, they've trained themselves to perform despite it. Successful traders develop the same ability. Discipline isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to make the right decision while emotion is present. That distinction changes everything. Many traders wait until they feel confident before following their plan. But confidence doesn't always come first. More often, confidence is the result of repeated disciplined actions. You follow your rules. You repeat the process. You survive difficult days. Over time, your mind begins to trust you. That's where real confidence is born. Here's something most people never notice. Every emotional reaction has a hidden trigger. Fear usually comes from risking more than you're comfortable losing. Greed often appears after unexpected success. Revenge trading grows from wounded pride. Impatience is usually a sign that you're seeking excitement instead of consistency. When you recognize the trigger, you stop blaming the emotion itself. Instead, you fix the behavior that created it. Imagine driving through thick fog. You don't speed up because visibility is poor. You slow down. You become more deliberate. You rely on the rules of the road instead of your emotions. Trading requires that same mindset. When uncertainty increases, discipline becomes even more important, not less. The strongest traders aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who refuse to let fear write their trading decisions. Day after day, trade after trade, that's how consistency is built. Not through motivation, not through luck, but through emotional stability that remains intact, whether the last trade was a winner or a loser. And here's the deeper truth. Every time you follow your plan instead of your emotions, you're doing more than protecting your account. You're changing your identity. You're proving to yourself that discipline is becoming your default response. One decision at a time, one trade at a time. But emotional discipline alone still isn't enough, because even the calmest trader can fail without a system of daily habits that quietly shape every decision before the trading day even begins. And those habits are the hidden foundation of every consistently profitable trader. That's where our final chapter begins. Chapter 4. Build the daily habits that turn trading into consistent profits. Imagine two traders 5 years from today. They started with the same amount of money, learned the same strategy, and had access to the same market. Yet one has built steady, long-term wealth, while the other is still chasing the next big win, wondering why nothing ever seems to change. What separated them? Not intelligence, not talent, not luck. It was what happened on the ordinary days. Most people believe life-changing results come from life-changing moments. They wait for the perfect trade, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect market condition. But consistent traders understand something different. Extraordinary results are built through ordinary habits repeated with extraordinary consistency. Think about a tree. No one notices it growing from one day to the next. Yet year after year, its roots grow deeper, its trunk becomes stronger, and eventually it stands where storms can no longer shake it. The same is true for your trading psychology. Every morning you review your plan instead of reacting emotionally, your roots grow deeper. Every time you respect your risk instead of increasing your position out of greed, your foundation becomes stronger. Every time you accept a loss without trying to win it back immediately, your identity changes just a little more. These moments seem small, but together they shape the trader you become. Here's something that separates professionals from everyone else. Professionals don't judge themselves by today's profit or loss. They judge themselves by the quality of today's decisions. That mindset removes one of the biggest emotional traps in trading, because if your success depends only on making money today, every losing trade feels like personal failure. But if your success is measured by following your process, then even a losing trade can become a successful decision. That is psychological freedom. Now imagine finishing your trading day with 3 simple questions. Did I follow my rules? Did I manage risk exactly as planned? Did I allow my emotions to control any decision? Notice what's missing. There's no question about how much money you made, because money is the outcome. Behavior is the cause. When you improve the cause, the outcome eventually follows. This is where most traders quit too early. They become impatient because they can't immediately see the results of their new habits. They dig up the seed every few days to check if it's growing, never realizing they're destroying the very progress they're trying to create. Real transformation is invisible before it becomes obvious. First, your thinking changes, then your decisions change, then your habits change, finally, your results change. In that order. Never the other way around. Now think back to the question from the beginning of this journey. What if your biggest opponent was never the market? By now the answer should be clear. The market was never asking you to predict the future. It was asking you to master yourself, to stay disciplined when others become emotional, to remain patient when others become desperate, to trust your process when others chase certainty. That is the true edge, not a secret indicator, not a magical strategy, but a mindset that remains steady regardless of what the market does next. Because profitable traders aren't created by one perfect trade. They're created by thousands of disciplined decisions that no one else ever sees. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: the day you stop trying to conquer the market and start conquering yourself is the day your journey toward becoming a consistently profitable trader truly begins.